It's Monday, May 29th, and you're listening to the Geek at Geek News Central. This is show number 951, sponsored in part by GoDaddy.com. Get 32% off at GoDaddy or pick up a domain name for $2.95. All my specials can be found at geeknewscentral.com/GoDaddy. Geek News Central is a proud member of the Tech Podcast Network. Hey, folks, got a great show for you tonight, and man, this thing is packed. I mean, it is absolutely packed with news and tech. You're going to love this one. Stand by. You know it comes. Strap in.
All right, people, I need a go, no-go for the Geek News Central podcast. Digital archive recorders.
We're go fly.
Microphone.
We're go fly.
Video feed.
Go.
Web browser.
Go.
RSS data stream aggregator.
Go fly.
Interflux Toddism suppressor.
All right, I'm confused.
Host readiness check.
Welcome to the show. Welcome to the show.
The Geek News Central podcast is a proud member of the Tech Podcast Network. If it's tech, it's here. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are ready to go. Cue Todd in
5,
Button, who's got the button?
4,
There is no cause for alarm.
3,
Everybody hold on to something.
2,
Just press the button.
1.
Hey, everyone, welcome to Geek News Central. Of course, my name is Todd Cochran, your beloved geeky host, and I want to welcome all of the Ohana and all of you longtime listeners to the show. Thanks for being here. Thanks for being subscribed. Thanks for supporting the podcast for all these number of years. 951, 49 to go to 1,000. So I'm pretty excited about that. I'm sure you guys are too. The march continues. But I tell you, it's been a great week here at I guess, the Geek News Central studio. It's been, I guess, busy is a good word for it. So I got some stuff to share with you guys tonight. But if you're brand new to the show, hey, thanks for being here. And, of course, we want to thank all of you that are already subscribed to the show for being subscribed. But if you're brand new, we want to make sure that you get over to geeknewscentral.com. Really, just get on the website, check it all out, subscribe to the show. It's real easy. Second column of the website, there's information there for you to get involved. Of course, you want to get hooked up with our other shows as well, the Gadget Professor, Langley, and Robot Underpants, and, of course, our new media show, which happens every Saturday as well. You'll find a link there to get the newsletter, basically get signed up via iTunes. It's all on the website, so take your time and make sure you get it over there and visit geeknewscentral.com. And, of course, you can follow me real easy and multitudes of places, and we encourage you to do so. But most importantly, the email address is where I want you to be able to connect with me. Geeknews@gmail.com is the email address. And, of course, available on Twitter @geeknews. And that is the couple of the primary places. Google+, Facebook. Links will be in the show notes on where to go find those pages to really opt in to staying connected with the show here. So lots going on. Really, I mean, it is. It's been a pretty crazy week here in the household. There's some upcoming travel. Basically, what's going to happen is we made a decision to do a round robin trip. We do this from time to time. I'm going to fly out to the week of the 9th of June, and I'm going to hit. I'm going to hit Houston, LA, and San Francisco. I'm going to be in Houston for 2 days. I'm going to be in LA for just a day, and then I'm flying out in the evening going to San Francisco. I'll be in San Francisco for 2 nights. I'm going to end it up with a trip up to Petaluma. I'm going to go up and visit the Brick House and visit the Twit team. So looking for a guest host that's going to come in that week. If I don't find a guest host, I'll put something together for you guys. But yeah, it's going to be a busy week. For me, that week of June. So just kind of give you guys a heads up from a programming standpoint of what's coming. I'll definitely remind you guys next week on what's going on with the schedule as well. But there's just some business partners we need to meet with and shake hands and take to lunch and all that standard stuff that goes on in running a company. And this is the first time going out to Houston to meet this specific client, but need to do that. Okay, what else is in my stack here? Of course, hey, tonight's show is sponsored in part by our good friends over at GoDaddy.com. And a couple of you have had some challenges getting renewals done. And here's the only thing I can tell you at this point. On non-domain names, on non-domain products, they're able to, usually you can find codes. And sometimes they'll email you a code. So when you get an email from GoDaddy, on your renewals, don't delete that notice, okay? Make sure that you keep that code, that you can use that in renewals. Now for .coms, .orgs, .edus, .nets, all those other domains, you're not probably going to find a renewal code. So you're going to be probably on retail. Now, I've asked for renewal codes and have not got any recently, but really it does not take away from the promotion codes that we have for you to use. And I tell you, the deals are still incredible. And this 32% off code, I think, is going to be going away soon. But we want you to get over to geeknewscentral.com/GoDaddy. And while you're over there, you'll find all the codes that I know of that are online and working. The Go 32 off 1 is the 32% off code. Go 25 off 5 is a 25% off code. 50 host 7 is 50% off a new hosting plan with a free domain. 50 WSB7 is 50% off first 12 months of business website builder with a free domain. And of course, $2.95 Geek is the $2.95 .com on a new or transfer for the first year. So definitely check out all the restrictions and utilizations, but you can really use these codes to your advantage by, I like to call them stacking them. Stack them in a position that is going to buy all the domains on one order, buy your other products on another order, and then you can mix and match what you need, and it really works out for the best. So definitely get over to geeknewscentral.com/GoDaddy. Check out all the promo codes there, and we want to thank GoDaddy for being a longtime sponsor here at Geek News Central. And really, that's the way that's what you guys do to support the show. We definitely appreciate it. Okay, so let me go here. And I shared on the last show that I've started a program, and it's from a company called Purium, Purium.com. And this, they have health products, and we got turned on to it by some people here in Hawaii. And I told you on the last show that when I stepped on the scale, I was 220 pounds. So this morning was the start of day 6. And so far, I'm down 8 pounds. I was at 212 pounds when I stepped on the scale this morning. Feeling great. Lots of energy. Really, I'm pretty impressed that I'm not going out of my mind at this point, because usually any type of diet cleanse or anything like that, it wears on you. And definitely looking forward to being at the end where I can, get back on some regular food, but it breaks down where you basically are typically you're taking a supplement, you're doing a shake, which is basically a micronutrient vegetable shake, and you get that 3 times a day, plus you get a fiber, and then you get antioxidant in the evening. But I've been basically every day 2 apples has been kind of my extra food that I've been eating that they allow you to have. They have a short list, cucumbers, apples, squash, broccoli, vegetable broth. There's a number of things they let you have in moderation. But I haven't been 212 pounds in 5 years at least. So, I've hung at that 220, 225 rate. So we'll see where this leads. And then after this thing's over, I'm going to do a every other day program with them and continue on and see how this goes for the first 30 days. The goal is obviously when it's all over, not to just, put it back on in a hurry. And so if you guys are interested in checking it out, I got a $50 gift card for you. It's real easy to use. It's a discount on their products and services. And you go over to mypurium.com/podcast. That's the place to go. mypurium.com/podcast. And what happens there is about the first 50 people that use the card or use the link to buy something will get $50 off. Then I have to go in and kind of recharge the account. But just want to let you guys know where I was at with the program. And the first 3 days was the roughest. It really, really was. That was the hardest part. But my wife is doing it with me, And she won't tell me what her weight is at this point. I've been writing it on the calendar every morning, stepping on in my bathing suit and seeing where we're at. And when it's all over, if I'm not too embarrassed, I'll show you before and after pictures. It might make you want to puke. I don't know, but anyway, that's where we're at with this thing. All right, so just moving on here. Hey, this new media show is going to be coming up this Saturday. Rob and I are going to be talking with Amir Bloomfield. He's from If I Were You podcast that is known also as the Jake and Amir Show. They're real popular on YouTube. They have a great podcast as well, so they've been able to balance it on both sides and see some great success. So we'll have him on for the new media show for those of you that are interested in that portion of what I do here. Also, again, week of proposals. Had some stuff come in. Big contract with ESPN. Had some new work from them, so we got that signed. So really happy with that. But really, what it all boils down to in the end is this show and this audience. And I want to thank all the insiders out there for supporting the show with their $2, $5, $10, $15, or $25 a month contributions at geeknewscentral.com/insider. And if you've recently become an insider, definitely send Sam an email at insider@geeknewscentral.com so that he can get you on all the private mailing lists that we have for the insiders. Anyway, that's going to wrap me up in just the regular chit-chat stuff I've got here tonight. And I'm telling you, I've got a stack, folks, a huge stack of stuff for you to share with you tonight. And I'm just getting the screen here ready because I'm going to switch modes and bring up the right browser here. But today was kind of a wower for me as I was going through stuff. But one thing I want to share with you guys at the very beginning, and this is kind of a non-related topic to the rest of the show, but how many of you, you watch on Star Trek or you watch on any of these space movies, they go to a wall, they push a button, and their food comes out, right? Well, we've all thought that was a pretty much fantasy, right? Obviously, in the prop for the movie, they had someone back behind with a tray that had the tray set up. But now, hold your hats, there's 3D printed food. It actually looks and tastes like food. Now, in Germany, companies are doing some incredible things with 3D printing. And again, they're using it to make food. Now, what kind of food? Well, this is kind of interesting. A company called Biazon Smooth Food developed a printer that would print food for senior citizens in a retirement and assisted housing community. In those communities, they have a major need for food that the residents do not need to chew. But rather than feeding them baby food for adults, which I think we all can agree is probably disgusting, Smooth Food created a melt-in-your-mouth food, literally, from fresh ingredients using a 3D printer. The food looks like food, tastes like food, but has a consistency of puree. So it's kind of comes like almost, I guess for a better word, a mashed potato. And the people that have been testing it says it tests great. The residents at the retirement facilities are not complaining, but it's a better, and it doesn't look like mush. It actually looks like diced carrots. It looks like a corn. It looks like, because they basically, when they print it, they make it look like what it's supposed to look like. So what's crazy is these printers cost less than $200. So this is, you talk about pushing a button and getting your food. I think we all want solid food, the majority of us. But this is just showing you where this technology is going with printers and printing food. So I just thought I would share that with you at the very top of the show tonight. But of course, let's talk a little bit here about Apple and what's forthcoming next week at WWDC. And of course, with the announcement of the acquisition of Beats. This is not any surprise to anyone. We know that this was forthcoming. And a lot of people may still be asking, why did Apple drop $3 billion on basically someone that makes headphones? And in my opinion, their headphones are pretty crappy from a quality standpoint, audio and so forth. But that's my opinion. But so what's happened is that the iTunes store, the folks at Apple, are definitely seeing a trend where sales, individual media sales, are going down. So people buying singles for 99 cents, there's a decrease in that. Whereas everywhere else on Spotify and Pandora, there's this increase of people that are streaming. And it's largely responsible because our connectivity is getting much better. And just like consuming podcasts, all people have to do is click play. They're not necessarily downloading anymore. Most of you that are listening to this show are clicking play either within the iOS podcast app or on my website or on an Android app, and you're not necessarily syncing anymore. You're downloading. So that's exactly what's going on with music consumption. Because there's such a great library, everyone is just streaming audio. And my kids do it. People that I know do it. They're not playing their playlist anymore. Even though I've got an incredible playlist of music, I'm usually the only one that's jamming it here in the house. Even when I'm going out and want to listen to music, I'm listening to Pandora, Spotify, or one of those services. So it's obvious that Apple needed Beats for their streaming service. And what's interesting is Apple is not going to cut it away from the Android or Windows Phone platform. They're going to allow it to continue to coexist. Now, this, in my opinion, and based on some things I've been hearing, is part of a bigger strategy by Apple. I think what you're going to start seeing is some traditional apps that Apple has on an iOS device start being seen on other mobile phones. Whether it be the podcasting app on Android, or if it might be iTunes for Android. There could be all kinds of things that because Apple got to get, they have to go this way now to be able to, and what I'm doing is they have to go lateral now, go wider in order to keep the revenues up, right? So we'll see where this leads, but that's basically the story that everyone is toting behind the Beats acquisition. Now, that does have artists concerned. Artists are basically saying, and as an example, cellist Zoe Kating told the publication that, and this is over on what's a Yahoo News piece, so maybe it was from BGR, that BGR.com. They said that last year, her iTunes sales netted her $38,196, while sales from other download services accounted for about $34,000. Meanwhile, streaming from 5 different sources, including Spotify, Pandora, only brought in $6,400. She says, iTunes downloads help me pay my monthly mortgage, the artist said. Unless you're a megastar, you can't count on the same for streaming services. In other words, the artist said, me and a lot of my music artist friends are worried about the switch from music buyers to music listeners. It's probably true. And so we'll see where this leads, but I can understand why the artists are worried, because they rely on those sales of their media to get that hard check, whereas streaming stuff is not big. But it over time, I think it'll catch up. Maybe not right away, but I'm sure that's why that Apple spent the $3 billion in stock to go get that company. And again, they're going to let it live on Android and on Windows Phone. Now, I don't profess at all to be a music guy at all, but Jimmy Levine, everyone's raving about this guy, and so I've been doing a little research on his background, and wow, this guy goes way, 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 way back. He was working with John Lennon back in the 70s, so this guy's a fixture in the space, but he brings, this 61-year-old gentleman brings deep celebrity connections, and that really is what Apple's probably needing right now. They don't have a great relationship with the artists, and this guy does. So we'll see where this leads, but apparently he's been a confidant of Apple for a long time. He was shown iTunes in the early days before it was released to the public, and that's saying something when Apple goes outside the wall and really shows something off to companies. Now that leads us to what's coming on Monday. I have high hopes. I want one thing only out of WWDC. I want an Apple TV that we can write an app to. That's what I want. If they do that, I'm going to be a very, very happy camper come Monday afternoon. I'm going to be watching the live stream. Hopefully my team, I've been talking with my team, maybe we can live blog part of the presentation because it's going to be live streamed this time. So we don't have to rely on Engadget or Gizmodo or anyone else to give us the play-by-play. We'll be able to hear everything from WWDC correct. So that's, personally, that's what I'm hoping for that's going to come out of this. Now, the iWatch is another big item that everyone's saying is coming. So we'll see where that leads. But one of the top folks at Apple is basically saying that this announcement that they're going to have money will be the release of the best products in 25 years. Now, that's a pretty bold statement, because when someone says that they're going to have announcements on the best products that Apple's brought to market in 25 years, the iPod, the iPhone, the iPad were all very revolutionary and really have changed the world. For them to say at a release of best product in 25 years, that makes me go, holy crap, they are going to announce something big. Now, we've heard a little bit of a retraction on their home product line that is apparently going to be some sort of collaboration with other vendors. So it's going to be certified probably to work with your iOS device. So we will see if that actually happens. But it's that saying that it's time to crap or get off the pot. It's Apple's time to make the Apple TV the next level and get it where it needs to be and where it should have been really 2 or 3 years ago. Because in all honesty, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, all have the ability. And as a matter of fact, our app for Amazon Fire TV is coming. Our developer is finishing the code now. It's going to, they have got to make the next move and take the next step. So we'll see where this leads. But again, obviously iOS 8, some new apps potentially, maybe announcement on OS 10. Those are things that we kind of expect. Maybe an update to Siri. So I don't know. They always surprise us. And my hope, and it's been my hope for a couple of years now, and you guys know I get all excited before this event because I keep hoping that the WWDC, they announce that the Apple TV is taking its next step. Someone's asking in chat room, yeah, Bryant, this is a Mophie. I'm using a Mophie charge pack for my iPhone. I am. And this one's working real well. I've got a history with these that aren't 100% positive, but they've done a good job at reinforcing the power cord on this one, so it doesn't look like it's going to get broke easy. So anyway, that's kind of what's happening. Is what we're hearing on the Apple side. But it's pretty. With Eddie Q making the best product pipeline in 25 years, maybe he's just making a general statement. I don't know, but we will see. We'll see what is brought to the table and where it comes from. And again, Apple's Smart Home Plan is rumored to be basically a certification program. Oh, and someone said a boring certification plan, but it's not. If someone has a cool certification, if, for example, I got 2 or 3 things back here in the back shelf that I have to do reviews on. If those all had integrated iOS, if it was just all integrated automatically, it'd be a lot easier. If it's certified, you could talk to the device with your mobile phone and so forth. So again, we'll see where this goes. All right, I'm going to switch gears completely on you here. And, there's a lot of talk about what's going on with net neutrality. And matter of fact, there's a bill in Congress right now that has been introduced by, I think, a Republican out of Arkansas that is basically going to, if it goes through, and I don't know if the president will sign this or not, but it's going to ban the FCC from making internet service providers a public utility. And there's a whole bunch of things that go along with becoming a public utility. And most of you hear electric company, at least here in Hawaii, our electric company is a public utility. They're governed by certain things. There's a utilities commission and so forth. But Verizon, for a number of years, claims that public utility status on broadband is bad, but at the same time, they use that in their Fios rollouts for government perks. So it's like, in one hand, they say, no, we don't want it for our internet business, but the other time, they're able to, sneak stuff in. In his example, that Fios can deliver services down the same wire. They can they have benefits of utility regulation without downsides. They have access to cables. They can pull up manholes and so forth. They have legal immunity. They have easements over private property and public rights of way, pole attachments, and even rights to access phone systems and so forth. And also the rights to interconnect with other networks. And they can do this on their internet side of their business without ever being classified a public utility. At the same time, if a company X comes in and I want to start a new company, for me to get access to the pipes to push fiber through, be like an act of God to make it happen. So in one hand, they want it. In the other hand, they don't. I'd love to hear you guys think, should ISPs, and let me know, tell me your opinion and why or why not. Do you believe that Time Warner, Cox, Charter, Verizon, AT&T, on their internet side of their business, should be forced to become governed under a public utility? I'd really like to hear your feedback on that. geeknews@gmail.com is the place to send the email. And in doing so, will give me insight into, where your mindset is on this, and you can form, I guess, for a better word, a collective opinion as Ohana here on which way this should go. And I'm sure this will bring up some debate, but debate is always good. Now, GM today, I think they got scared, and I really don't know why, but the CEO of GM says that Google's self-driving cars are basically could someday pose a serious competitive threat. Now, I don't know how many of you would want to drive around town in one of these Google-designed cars. First of all, I don't know how safe it is. It looks like it could get run over by just about anything. But, there was a lot of excitement Tuesday over this this device with basically no steering wheel. And, Sergey Brin was quick to admit that Google self-driving cars are obviously years away from hitting the roads in any significant volume. I like how they say that, in any significant volume. But they say the company's still feeling out the technology and trying to ascertain how it can take such a thrilling concept, complete with working prototypes, and make it real for people around the world. And I'm like, give me one, please. I want one of these for Hawaii. I want to be able to basically sit back in my car and, okay, car, let's go. And I don't want to have to drive. I want to, take me where I need to go. And when I need to drive, I want to drive. But otherwise, I can do other productive things while sitting in this madness of traffic that I have to deal with here. So, but it is funny that GM, they come out and say, this could someday pose a serious threat. Well, what they're going to do is they're going to put Google technology on a GM car. Come on, GM, don't be stupid. All right, I've recently been refraining from talking about Edward Snowden very much, and it's largely because the guy pisses me off, and at the same time, there's definitely two camps to where people feel how he should be treated. But he was on a interview on NBC News that was pretty frank, and it's getting a lot of play. And I'd love to hear you guys' thoughts on essentially what this guy had to say. But he obviously came in and defended his disclosure of American government use of basically disclosure of classified information, And, of course, he described himself as a patriot for trying to stop violations of the Constitution. And, of course, he admits he's lost his ability to travel. And but he's having problems sleeping at night. He's probably got problems sleeping at night because he's probably worried someone's going to come in and shoot him. But apparently they spent about 5 hours with NBC News anchor Brian Williams at a hotel in Moscow. And so basically this was on last night. And if you haven't caught it, you can watch the video. At the same time, Secretary of State John Kerry has basically asked Snowden to man up and come home. He's not coming home because the first thing they're going to do when he gets home, they're going to lock his butt up, and he's never going to see daylight for the rest of his natural life. That's what's going to happen. He's not coming home. But it's an interesting interview, but it's the first of its kind. So link will obviously be up in the show notes if you haven't checked it out by yourself already. All right, and something you're going to want to watch, and I missed it live, but I watched the replay. SpaceX today has basically revealed its new spacecraft. And the Dragon V2 has been introduced to the world. This thing is beyond cool how it's going to work. Watch the 15-minute video with Elon Musk making the announcement. Basically, in a nutshell, this is how this thing is going to work. They're going to punch 7 astronauts into space. That's pretty standard stuff, getting them there. And the nose cone raises up and has a docking mechanism, and that's basically how they're going to get to the International Space Station. Now, they have an aft section attached to it that's got solar arrays on it to provide additional power. But on the way home, they kick loose the solar array, and they get themselves to the reentry point, and they don't bring this thing in over the ocean. They bring it right down to their launch facility, and it's a reusable capsule. It lands itself. That we've been talking about them practicing that already, but they revealed some of the technology, and the control panel for this spacecraft was pretty incredible. It basically is a big glass screen. It's not like the old NASA day, folks, where there was switches and buttons, and although at times switches and buttons are good, I don't always like trusting electronics. Sometimes I'd like to have a manual switch there to make things happen, something that's wired instead of, because, if you crash on launch, if the system crashes on launch, punching the escape parachute or something like that doesn't happen because if it's not a physical button there and if it's relying on digital. But anyway, this is where they're leading with the spacecraft. I think they're being pretty smart with it. And it's just amazing to me what they can do in such a short amount of time as compared to our own NASA bureaucratic mess that just seems to me moves slower and slower and slower. Excited to see the first test launch and then the first launch where we actually have 7 astronauts spamming a can headed towards the International Space Station. So it'll be real cool. All right, another space news. NASA, we talked about in the last show about the ISEE-3. It's the 36-year-old satellite that NASA basically is left for dead over a decade ago. Well, the team that raised $100,000 and some thousand on a Kickstarter, $150,000 on a Kickstarter, have had success. They've talked to the ISEE-3 and they've had two-way contact. And they are very happy with the initial results, and they're starting to control it and seeing what's alive and what isn't. But it is pretty incredible to me that here you've got a satellite that's out there in another regions of space, and I don't know exactly where they have it, but this thing has just been sitting out there doing its mission, and whatever software has been running. They pinged it and it said, "Hey, I'm still here." That to me is just cool. I mean, that is like on the far side of like, holy cow, cool. And, some of you weren't even alive when this thing was put in orbit initially. So, just think about that thing. You think about your car radio or this piece of gear's been out in space for 36 years and it's still rocking and rolling. Now, of course, the last year NASA talked to it was in 1997, but it doesn't matter. It's, I got the wrong stupid camera picked. Everybody's like, why are you looking there? But anyway, very, very cool stuff on the space side. We have not, I'm kind of bouncing. And I tried to organize the show as best as I could tonight, but there is a whole bunch of really, really cool stuff. There's some new data on six strikes. Remember, we haven't heard about six strikes in a while. They implemented it. We all were, not happy with it. But essentially, what they're seeing is in some results through December 31st that they've issued about 700,000 first notifications. But what's even more interesting is they had a 32% revisit rate. So 32% of the people that got warned once got warned twice. Then the third level, so take for example 700,000. The second level was about 300,000. The third level was about 250, with the fourth level at about just under 200,000. The fifth warning just over 100,000, with the sixth warning under 100,000. So there are people being affected by this. So we can assume that about 80 or 90,000 people have potentially lost their internet connection or have their data turned over. So now there's some additional stuff here too. There was, as we expected, a significant error rate. After the third and fourth alert, people can challenge a claim, and there were 40 successful challenges out of 265 total challenges. Most of the successful challenges involved people claiming that others were using an account. But again, a pretty high rate of people that say, "Hey, I'm not doing anything. It's not me. It's not me." So an interesting move here on what's going on with Six Strike, and I'll have the link up where you guys can definitely check out all the data. Of course, I should have covered this in space news earlier, but we did have some astronauts go to the International Space Station courtesy of the Russians. And, of course, they're probably the big sign at the International Space Station that says right now, "Welcome to the ISS. Don't mention Ukraine if you ever want to leave." So, but they went via the Soyuz from the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan. And what is this? I've got had a little fly in here. One of those little itty bitty. He's flying around and driving me crazy. All right, switching up again. How many minutes do you think you look at a screen? Be a big screen that's like in front of me, or a mobile screen, or an iPad. How many minutes a day do you think? In Indonesia, this is incredible. It's like 132 because they have it broken down by device. So, okay, for example, in Indonesia, they spend 132 minutes in front of the TV, 117 minutes on a laptop, 181 minutes on a smartphone, and 110 minutes on a tablet. That was the average in Indonesia. In the United States, 147 minutes on a TV, 103 minutes on a laptop, 151 minutes on a smartphone, and 43 minutes on a tablet. To me, it sounds awful high because I'm either doing one or the other. I'd either watch TV and now have my computer. There's very few times I'm doing both. I don't have time for both. If you look at that, that's total hours. So just in the United States alone, so 147, 100, that's 247, 347, 410, 450. So if we think about this in a number of minutes in a day. So if you take 450 and you divide that by 60, that means that you're in front of a screen about 8 hours, 7.5 hours a day here in the United States. Well, if you're going to work, that's probably 3 or 4 hours right there that you're in front of the computer at work between meetings and everything else, answering email, doing projects, whatever you may be doing. And then the amount of time on the television at home, it just shocks me. Now, Indonesia is number one, with Italy being the least. And what it really boiled down to is there's not a big delta. Italy had just over 300 minutes a day, with Indonesia having like 550. It is an interesting chart. This is a huge survey that was done. I have a link in the show notes, and definitely makes for some fodder around the water cooler tomorrow. How many of you have a Keurig? I hope I pronounced that right, one of those Keurig coffee machines. Well, we don't do a Keurig here. I have a very nice bean grinder. Living in Hawaii, we definitely buy a lot of Kona coffee, a real 100% Kona coffee, not what's in the grocery store that maybe has like 3 or 4%. I have a friend that roasts beans, and he hooks us up with all kinds of different varieties. Now, obviously, on my 10-day thing here, we're not drinking any coffee. But many of you guys love your Keurig machine. Well, how about a machine that will punch you out a tortilla? There's a new machine for tortillas. This is pretty cool. It's called the Flatev, Faltev. It uses pods as well instead of freeze-dried coffee or soup mix. They're filled with fresh dough or different varieties such as corn or wheat. And as with the Keurig, you insert the pod into the top of the machine while it's warming up, and then push the start button, and you have a fresh piping hot tortilla in just a minute. So rock on. It's just like our whole counters are going to be full of this kind of crap, where we're just going to be an instant food generation. And it's not necessarily a good thing, all this processed food for sure. All right, big news out of Australia talking about the iCloud hack. There's a great article on Gizmodo that talks about how it happened, how it was accomplished, and some precautions you should take. I'm not going to go into the details. I have a link up in the show notes for you to check that out. Also, there's a great video that's up on YouTube. It's a little over 8 million views at this point. Kids react to old computers. This is hilarious. It's good fun to watch. Those of you that are old timers that were around for some of these old PCs will have a good chuckle. There's also some interesting news coming out of the Department of Justice. The Department of Justice has been claiming that it will be more respectful of journalists and their rights after 2 scandals that happened last year involving spying on AP reporters and claiming reporter James Rosen was a co-conspirator in order to get access to his phone and email records. But based on questioning with the Attorney General, it appears that this Department of Justice still has no problem using what they're terming questionable legal moves against reporters, such as in the ongoing situation with James Risen. And again, that's a different person, James Rosen and James Risen. The DOJ is still trying to send James Risen to jail. And in a meeting, Holder was asked about Risen and said no reporter who is doing his job is going to go to jail. This resulted, of course, in the New York Times and others suggesting that the Department of Justice wouldn't send Risen to jail if he continued to resist giving up his sources in one of the many DOJ's many leak investigations. So it is an interesting development here, but that when the press is not free to do their job, we're in a lot of trouble. We really are. But time will tell if the Department of Justice can contain themselves. Also, I'm going to have a link tonight to a site over at idlewords.com talking about a text version of a talk that was given. It was a privacy talk. And I'll have the link up in the show notes for you to check out. It's an interesting read. And I'll have it starred for you guys to go through, and I definitely recommend that you go through and take a peek at this. Foursquare CEO Foursquare CEO and BizDev are leaving. And it makes you go, Ghislaine. I know part of the leadership team over there at Foursquare. One of the guys that was the principals of one of the principal investors of Foursquare was the gentleman that basically considered acquiring Raw Voice back in the early years, which a deal that we walked away from. But Chief Operating Officer Evan Cohen will leave the company in the coming weeks after spending the past 4.5 years at the company, also parting his longtime business development lead, Holger Ludroff. So this probably comes at a bad time for Foursquare, which has made some big changes to their core mobile functions. So we'll see what happens here over time with this. All right, moving on to an article over in Ars Technica. Root backdoor found in surveillance gear that's used by law enforcement is basically, it's not a good thing. So in an advisory that was published Wednesday, a group of researchers recommended people stop using, in other words, the police, stop using the NICE Recording Express voice recording package. It's one of several software offerings provided by an Israeli-based NICE systems. They market themselves as providing mission-critical lawful interception solutions, and this thing is like got a big open backdoor hack, and it's not good. So just goes to show you that software out there is vulnerable at all times, especially when someone programs something stupid like that into the application. Hey, researchers, I don't. Do any of you know what graphene does? And I'm shocking I should actually Google it. But there's this big article on Extreme talking about how researchers have created high-quality graphene with basically supersonic spray system. I'm not a big... I don't have a lot of knowledge, or I should say no knowledge on graphene. Probably when someone tells me, I'll know. But if you're into this type of stuff, I'll have that up in the show notes. But they're just raving about this new process to apply graphene. There's a great article on Engadget talking about GoPro's burgeoning media empire, and GoPro's obviously going to be doing a public offering here soon. I don't know if they're in their quiet period or not, but they do sponsor a lot of cool activities, and most of it is stunt related and sports related. When you can buy a $400 camera that will just go anywhere, almost attached to anything, with basically giving you a almost TV production quality, it's pretty amazing. And it's a good story behind the GoPro team and what they're doing, and a summit and I think they're out here in Hawaii at a summit. But link will be up in the show notes for you guys that are interested in what's going on with the future of GoPro. All right, this next link, I gotta wait till you guys see this. YouTube has revealed which U.S. internet providers are the best and worst at streaming video. Now this just rocks. And let me bring this and put it on this browser, and then I'll bring this up. So here is my provider. I'm on Time Warner Cable, and it says that YouTube HD Verified works with with my service. And it tells how good it works, and basically it really never drop below about 90% on the HD stream anytime, and it goes it does. It goes down to 89% quality at a certain point. But what's interesting here is that on the bottom of this, they compare it to two other providers here in Hawaii, and Hawaiian Telecom is a company that provides. They have a variety of services. They have DSL. And they also have internet to the home, which is basically fiber-backed, but they're only qualifying them as standard def. And this is, in my opinion, is a little bit wrong in that I think that depending on what service you use, if you use their DSL, this is definitely, it's not even SD, it's crap. I'm lucky if I get a meg and a half or two out of my DSL connection. But there's another group here that's called Sandwich Island Communications. I've never heard of them. I don't even know who they serve business, and they must be a business provider, but they're SD rated as well. But you can change locations, and you can compare cable providers just by, this is just load this page up, and it'll basically give you the report, tells you what your connection can support, and I think this is a good way of keeping the cable providers honest. I really, really do. So it's very, very cool. All right, let's see. I already talked about that. How come I'm here? Moving down. Okay. TrueCrypt. Any of you using TrueCrypt to encrypt files or data or emails? be aware that there's some concerns out there about TrueCrypt right now. They're saying that TrueCrypt is not secure. It may contain unfixed security issues. And this is put up by the development team on SourceForge. And people have been in absolute panic for the last 2 days. Now, they don't know if it's a hoax or if the team just quit and someone took over the code. But there's been a lot of discussion out there. So use that application, TrueCrypt, with caution. I've never used it before personally. But if you are, it may be time to look for a new security product. Sadly, the Netflix CEO is saying, sorry, we're not making a streaming device. So basically, he said they've had no interest in making their own video streaming device like Amazon Fire TV, nor will it pour money into licensing live sports. So that's an interesting move. ESPN has got, ESPN and the big television conglomerates, buy up the basketball rights, NFL, hockey, everything else. I can understand them not wanting to spend a lot of money in that space, and it makes sense. They're on all the devices anyway. It's default. No one's going to come out with a device unless it has a Netflix implementation. And I'd love to see their budget line sometime for supporting all those devices and updating. I know what my budget line is. It's not necessarily small for basically keeping everything rocking and rolling on Google TV, on the Roku, on the Boxy, and of course the Boxy's pretty much dead at this point, so more of a software solution, but he still can use it. But anyway, very, very cool. All right, Microsoft smartwatch will reportedly work with Android and iOS to monitor your heart rate. So apparently Microsoft is still working on their own smartwatch. So we'll see if that ever comes out, but that's in the rumor mill. Also, there's a great article over on Huffington Post, and boy, I tell you, that's a miracle for me to say there's a great article on Huffington Post. I don't think I've ever recommended, maybe in entirety of this 951 episodes of this show, maybe one or two Huffington Post articles, but it's a great blog article by Meryl Chertoff. She's executive director of the Aspen Institute of Justice and Society program. She says, who should we fear? Big Brother or Big Data? And it's a great write-up and worthy of a read if you're concerned about this type of stuff. And if you listen to the show, I think you would be. This is a good one. Scientists. Okay, scientists have always have come out and said, hey, smoking is bad for you, right? We all know that. Smoking a regular cigarette is that tar and nicotine, it can, that habit can only lead to one of two things: heart disease, lung cancer, emphysema. Actually, three things. More than that, just all kinds of issues. And people that smoke know they need to smoke. They know it's bad for you. There's not a lot of question there. But scientists are saying that e-cigarettes, e-vapor cigarettes, could save millions of lives, and warns against strong regulation. The World Now, I don't put a lot of faith in the World Health Organization, but they are interested in regulating e-cigarettes like all other tobacco products. But a international group, of course, we don't know who this international group is and who paid for them, of over 50 researchers hoping to change its mind. The group sent a letter arguing that placing strong regulations on e-cigarettes would harm the opportunity for them to save millions of smokers' lives by removing the ill effects of traditional cigarettes. I think we all can understand nicotine. I don't know if nicotine is necessarily bad for you. It's that tar and smoke and the crap that's going in your lungs. The nicotine is probably just as bad as caffeine, but, we all love caffeine, right? So, interesting move here. I always, when I was a single guy, let's go back ways, all right? So, when I was a single guy, I went into, you go out to the bars and clubs and so forth. And again, this is going way back. There was a couple of bars and clubs that we would go to that was smoke-free, even the early days. And those clubs would be empty. There'd be no one in there. As a young guy, you're out, you're chasing girls and all the stuff that goes on when you're single, right? And so you'd go to the clubs where there was all the smokers are at, and they were packed. Where they allowed smoking, the club was jam-packed. Always rocking, boom, boom. And so as soon as they put in all these restrictions on smoking, it definitely had a negative effect on the bar business and club business across the United States. Matter of fact, it destroyed some businesses, especially in small towns. People whoa, what was that? Anyway, people could come into the, and I know people don't like people that smoke. I always thought there was a time and a place for it, but now the whole e-cigarette ban, it's like, oh my God. And again, the only thing I have is a cigar from time to time, and in very small moderation. I don't, it's not like I'm having a stogie every week. That's not the way it works. But it is interesting here that they're cracking down on these e-cigarettes and vaporware stuff. All right, moving into the tech side again. New Heartbleed attack hits Android devices and routers over Wi-Fi. Whoa. Well, they say it can be done. It's not being proved that it's being done, but apparently Heartbleed is still causing problems. A new report from a Portuguese security researcher, Luis Grangela, describes how the same bug could be used over Wi-Fi to enable new kinds of attacks that build on the same vulnerability. So basically, say going after routers and so forth should be, it could be done in corporate espionage and a number of things. So just because the routers they're not patched, they suffer the same bug as servers do. Should not come as a surprise that Amazon is prepping a music streaming service for Prime customers. I think we've talked about that in the past. There's just more word on the street about that. Also, scientists are starting to figure out why rechargeable batteries go bad, and they think they may have figured out a way to fix them. And it's all about in the manufacturing process and some residues and some corrosion that happens. So we'll see where this leads. But this is pretty cool that scientists are making advancements on that. There's no reason why rechargeable batteries should fail. They just shouldn't. Also, if you are on the anti-immunization side of things, be aware measles hit a 20-year high in the United States, especially in the South. There's been across the United States, there's been 288 cases reported since the beginning of the year, and but a lot of it's coming from. Let's see if I can read. If they can, yeah, it doesn't say it. The outbreak is happening in Texas, a lot of southern states. So I wonder if this is coming from immigrants that have come to the United States either legally or illegally, and haven't been immunized. So that's an interesting thought. So be on the lookout for measles. All right, latest eBay flaw. Boy, a serious rookie mistake. They had a cross-site scripting vulnerability, and was discovered by a 19-year-old college student. The flaw can allow an attacker to inject malicious code into an otherwise legitimate website. So, there's a lot of, this XSS stuff is a challenge. Even good written code can become susceptible to it, and feel sorry for eBay, but they're a big enough firm. They should have been able to, knock any of that type of malarkey out a long time ago. All right, Dish will soon are you a Dish customer? Do you have some Bitcoins? Dish will soon let you pay your bill with Bitcoins. So interesting move by the folks at Dish. So good on them. And finally, you know what? I am such a knucklehead. I had 2 emails at the beginning of the show. I'm near at the end here, so we'll just cover them at the end. Again, I got the SpaceX Dragon V2 unveil video. I'll have that linked up in the show notes for you to look at, along with a whole bunch of other stuff. But that's going to wrap me up for all the content tonight. Pretty cool stack of stuff tonight, yeah? Don't you think? Hey, don't forget to take care of our sponsor, GoDaddy.com. And if you want to become an insider, we appreciate every contribution made to the show. It goes a long way in keeping the lights on and keeping my family fed. So definitely appreciate those of you that come in and use those GoDaddy promo codes, because without that, things would have to change around here just a little bit. But, hey, let's talk just a little bit about a couple of emails that came in. Jeff, one of our consistent contributors to the show, said that Google and Nest apparently want to watch you sleep, and he sent me a link to talking about a little bit about what we talked on the last show about home surveillance equipment, and got an email from Tyler. Tyler's a listener of the show. He says, Todd, can you recommend an HDMI hub? I purchased a TV that I thought had 2 HDMI ports, but when I got home, it only had 1. If you can give me any information, I'd appreciate it. Thank you. And Tyler, here's the deal, Tyler. When I bought one, I went on Amazon and I basically typed in HDMI hub and I read through the reviews. They're all pretty good. You just watch the reviews, make sure that they sync good. Get one if you can. It has a remote control because I have to get up from the lazy boy and walk to the TV and press the HDMI switch because I've got a TV that doesn't have that many HDMI inputs either. So we're sharing a few. And matter of fact, my TV is, I'm hoping at some point, just wishing it would quit so I can replace it with a flat screen. But yeah, I would just, and I don't have a specific one for you. I apologize about that. But definitely go over to Amazon and just basically put HDMI hub in the search engine there and look at the reviews and read down through 10 or 15 and see what people say. You can buy them in 4, 8. The one I have is a 4-port hub. I think it just cost me like $50 or something. It wasn't very much money. But yeah, when you're buying a TV, pay attention to the number of ports that are on the back. All right, folks, that's going to wrap me up here tonight. I want to thank all of you for being here. We did great on time, all things considering. I'm looking at the clock here. But again, as we're rolling out, don't forget my sponsor over at GoDaddy, geeknewscentral.com/GoDaddy with all the codes. And, of course, you can reach me on Twitter at Geek News or email me here at geeknews@gmail.com. Again, if you're interested in what I'm doing with my cleanse and taking care of my health here a little bit and using this transformation package, you can check it out, myperium.com/podcast. Using that promo code podcast will get you $50 off on their products and services. We'll update you on the next show. Will actually be my last day. Monday will be the evening that I'm done. That I go through the evening, and the next morning I can be back on regular food. So I'll give you an update on what the weigh-in was for the morning of day 10. And I think it will probably be 10, 12 pounds, something like that, probably for the 10 days. Time will tell. Some people have lost a lot of weight, but I haven't burned it off as quick as others, which is probably good from a safety standpoint as well. All right, let's get out of here. Everyone, thanks for being here. I definitely appreciate you being part of our audience and being part of the Ohana here. Till next time, everyone, take care and aloha. See you later, YouTube.